Welcome to The Explainer. Let's jump right in, because today's premise is absolutely wild. The world is just packed with strange, confusing, and honestly, utterly bizarre laws. We've all seen those crazy viral headlines, right? But how many of them are actually true? Today, we're going to dig into some of the world's weirdest statutes. We'll look at everything from rumors of reincarnation permits in China to, well, suspiciously handled fish in the UK. We're going to figure out which ones are totally misunderstood internet myths and which ones are shockingly 100% real.
So I want you to think about this for a second. Have you ever forgotten an anniversary? Or maybe your spouse's birthday? Now, for most of us, that just means a super uncomfortable apology and, a frantic trip to the florist. But do you think a simple forgotten date could literally make you a criminal? Keep that in the back of your mind because the answer is absolutely going to surprise you.
Okay, Section 1, the world's weirdest laws, separating internet myth from legal reality.
Moving right into Section 2, myths, fats, and gum, the truth behind the sensationalism.
You've probably seen this first one making the rounds online. It's this massive internet myth claiming that the Japanese government actively fines or even throws its citizens in jail simply for being overweight. I mean, it sounds incredibly dystopian, doesn't it? So is there actually any truth to this whole thing?
Well, there's a stark contrast between the myth and the reality here. It is absolutely not illegal to be fat in Japan. The truth is actually based on the 2008 Metabo Law, and this is essentially just a workplace wellness mandate. The law does require annual waist measurements for adults to screen for metabolic syndrome, but here's the absolutely crucial point. There are zero personal fines. None. Instead, the law targets corporate employers. It holds them financially accountable if they fail to provide health guidance to their workforce. So it's really all about public health, not punishing individuals.
All right, let's pivot over to Singapore and look at this incredibly infamous, widely feared myth. We've all heard this one, right? Chew a single piece of bubblegum in Singapore and you're going to be subjected to severe physical punishment, specifically caning. The reality of this one brilliantly illustrates how stories just get completely tangled up over time. Actually, chewing gum itself has never been a crime in Singapore. The whole myth about caning, that comes from a completely separate 1994 vandalism case. What Singapore actually banned was the importing, manufacturing, and selling of chewing gum. And why? Well, back in 1992, vandals kept sticking used gum onto the door sensors of the brand new multi-billion-dollar mass rapid transit trains. It was causing massive disruptions.
So if we follow the timeline here, that strict import and sale ban kicked off in 1992. But then, fast forward to 2004, and they introduced a free trade exception. This allowed therapeutic gums, things like nicotine or dental gum, to be sold, but only through licensed pharmacies. Today, honestly, having a little personal stash is tolerated, and personal chewing is totally fine. But be warned, what will get you in huge trouble is littering. If you toss that gum on the ground, you can get hit with a massive fine or even a corrective work order where you have to literally clean public spaces in a bright, high-visibility vest.
Section 3, oddly specific UK offenses, from fish to facilities.
Listen to this bizarrely clinical definition. Under the UK Salmon Act of 1986, it is an actual literal crime in England and Wales to handle a salmon under suspicious circumstances. Yes, you heard me correctly. If you receive or get rid of a salmon, and it could reasonably be believed that the fish was illegally poached, you are breaking the law.
And just how seriously do they take suspicious salmon? Well, the maximum penalty for this oddly specific fish handling offense is a staggering 2 years in prison. 2 years! So, yeah, definitely be careful who you accept seafood from next time you're in the UK.
Shifting slightly north to Scotland, we find a law that's beautifully rooted in historic hospitality. Technically enforceable under old Scottish common law, if someone knocks on your door and asks to use your bathroom, you cannot legally refuse them. It's just a fascinating look at how cultural values, like hospitality, literally shaped the common law of the land over there.
Let's head into Section 4, love, life, and dignity, strict statutes, and progressive protections. Okay, remember that question I asked you at the very beginning of this explainer? Well, if you happen to live in the Polynesian island country of Samoa and you forget your wife's birthday for a second time, it is literally considered a crime. And the maximum penalty for that slip-up? Up to 5 years in jail. No joke. Now, the most crucial part here is how this is actually enforced. This isn't just some old, forgotten law collecting dust on the books. For a first offense, the husband gets a formal warning. But for a second offense, it escalates to a fine or that maximum prison sentence we just talked about. And Samoa takes this so seriously that there's a dedicated, specialized police team whose entire job is to handle these marital complaints. They even actively hold informational sessions to educate wives about this exact legal protection.
Now, let's totally contrast that highly specific human relationship law with a super broad philosophical one in Switzerland. Back in 1992, Switzerland passed a constitutional principle that is, frankly, entirely unique globally. It legally protects the dignity of animals. It actually grants them moral value in the eyes of the law. There's a really profound difference in legal philosophy going on here. Most countries use what's called a pathocentric approach, which basically means the law just focuses on stopping physical pain and suffering for animals. But Switzerland takes a biocentric approach. This protects the animal's inherent moral worth. It literally makes it illegal to humiliate an animal or excessively instrumentalize it, even if absolutely no physical pain is involved. While human interest can still sometimes outweigh it legally, this fundamentally changes the legal standing of a living creature. It's a huge shift. Finally, Section 5, Tourist Traps and Fines, Quick Warnings for Global Travelers.
Look, if you are planning a trip to Dubai anytime soon, you really need to understand their zero-tolerance policies. For example, if you're driving, the legal blood alcohol limit is absolutely 0.00%. Zero. If you get into even a minor fender bender and the police find literally any trace of alcohol in your system, your car insurance is instantly voided and you are facing real jail time and deportation.
Let's rapid fire through a few more crucial rules for Dubai. First, check your medicine cabinet. Common painkillers that contain codeine, those are controlled substances there, and carrying them without pre-approval can literally be treated as drug smuggling. Flipping someone off or swearing in public, and yes, that even includes a message on WhatsApp, is a criminal offense. Public displays of affection are strictly limited to just holding hands. Vaping is legal, but if you do it in a non-smoking zone like a mall or the metro, you're in big trouble. And finally, never ever take a photo of a stranger without asking. It is considered a severe cybercrime with massive fines attached.
Let's wrap up our global tour with some totally accidental European traps. In Florence, Italy, just eating or drinking on certain historic streets will land you a hefty fine. Head over to Venice, and feeding the pigeons, strictly illegal. In the beach town of Heraclea, building sandcastles is literally banned. And if you rent a car in Spain, make sure you put on proper shoes, because driving in flip-flops is a finable offense. Crazy, right?
And that brings us to the end of our explainer. We've covered the whole shebang today, from suspiciously handled fish to constitutional animal dignity and literal sandcastle bans. So I want to leave you with one final question to think about. Which of these bizarre global laws would you be most likely to accidentally break on your next trip? Stay curious, definitely make sure you read up on local laws before you travel, and stay safe out there.